everyone, welcome back to the classroom. This is season 3 for the fall 2023 semester. I'm so glad to be back doing this, representing the Center for Learning and Student Success and bringing just some really interesting student perspectives onto the table to talk about all different things that are, going on campus and things that are on students' minds and things that they're up to. So we're just going to jump right into the interview for today, and then going forward, we'll be doing live shows as usual. But for this week, we're going to jump right into the interview with our guests. Let's just start, with like an introduction of like Active Minds and like what you guys do.
My name is Ria. I'm a biology major. I'm the president of Active Minds, and I'm a current junior.
Awesome.
Hi, my name is Summer, and I'm a bio major also and a junior.
Nice.
And I'm a treasurer of the Active Minds.
Awesome.
Hi guys, so my name is Sean. I'm a second year bio major. I'm the vice president of Active Minds, and I'm glad to be here today.
Hi guys, I'm Cindy Doe. I'm a biology major, third year, and my role in Active Minds is the Vice Operations Lead.
Awesome, thank you guys. Anything in particular that you guys have coming up?
So we have our third general body meeting. It's in free period during October 11th, I believe.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so, just before I get into some of the questions I had, maybe you guys could talk a little bit more about like how you guys got involved in Active Minds and kind of what you guys are like looking to do this semester on campus.
So I kind of got involved with Active Minds just because I really love the idea of mental health and having that open conversation and breaking down the stigmas. But we have a lot planned for this semester. We're doing more than ever.
You guys have been really active like this. I've seen you guys probably more this semester, like just starting than like probably in my like first 2 years here combined. Like I've seen you guys like everywhere, which is like awesome to see.
Yeah, definitely. So we've been starting a new connection with the Wellness Center.
Nice.
And so we have had 2 events with the Wellness Center so far. So you've probably seen them around campus. They're the relaxation stations or just areas to like de-stress and just bring that to the student community. We've had our first GBM, so that was also very successful.
Awesome.
We basically introduced our initiatives for the semester and just got to like learn more about our members and just get to engage with each other with some icebreakers. And then we also have been tabling for Suicide Prevention Month.
Yeah.
So you do have our
Yes,
wonderful
that's where I
t-shirt
got the
on.
shirt, yes.
But we also collaborate with the Wellness Center on that, just to spread awareness about suicide prevention to our students here on campus and faculty on campus.
Yeah.
We had a lot of activities for that in terms of spreading kindness and giving out compliments, and it was just a really engaging event, and it's really wholesome. So yeah, that's Active Mind so far.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so like what class does is obviously we're like academic success like focused, so we provide academic resources and tutoring and all those different things like that. But there's so much more that goes into like the day-to-day of like a college student, and there's so much that goes into your ability to feel like you can show up to class and like participate and be like involved. And one of the questions that I was curious to hear you guys' perspective on, anyone can jump in or we can kind of go down the line, is what ways, when it comes to like mental health and things like that, what factors or like dynamics do you find are kind of underrepresented or not talked about enough when it comes to actively impacting students like on a day-to-day that you think should be talked about more?
I'd say that usually people talk about burnout, they talk about stress and like anxiety, learning new material and being in a new environment.
Yeah.
And we are all like aware that it's here, but we kind of just accept it. We kind of just like brush it off or mention during class, like, I'm just really stressed.
It's the norm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's one of the things that I think I experienced the most as a student, is that I was just in like with the conversations I would have with like my fellow classmates, we would all just kind of accept being totally stressed out, and like having that mentality, it really hurts, because then I think it prevents you from like reaching out for help, because you just kind of accept, well, this is how it is. So like I really resonate with that, and I'm kind of curious, like what ways do you think, like for example, our office or other offices on campus, like how can we bring more awareness to letting people know that you don't just have to accept that burnout? Like how can we kind of change that conversation?
Yeah, I think one of the best ways to go about this is working together. So I think we've learned that from this semester especially.
Yeah.
we're not just a student org on campus, we're working with the wellness center, we're working with other orgs. So
Yeah.
right now during our suicide prevention campaign, we're working with all the other orgs to make a flyer and have all their logos presented on the flyer, just basically spreading the message that we're all united in this issue. So I definitely think one of the best ways to go about addressing mental health, especially here on campus, is just get everyone involved.
Yeah.
I think it's important to have everyone on the table talking about this issue, as opposed to just having one organization say, well, we care for your mental health, and then have another organization say, we care for your mental health.
And everyone's like all spread out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The best way to get everyone together is for everyone to step in and everyone to have some sort of opinion on this matter.
Yeah, that's kind of one thing that we're feeling like over at class too, because like, you know, we don't want to just be the tutoring center. We want to get involved with other groups and like other organizations. So I'm curious to kind of hear, like, tell me like a little bit more about like the Relaxation Station.
The Wellness Center has partnered up with several departments like the library or like the Animation Alliance, and each station or each day will focus on a specific aspect of your wellness. So for an example, like last Wednesday, they had like coloring connections, so they focused on like just relaxing, taking a break from academics and just coloring and using that as like a medium to like let out your stress.
Have you found that those kind of events help give you more energy to kind of come back to academics and kind of like refill you to like kind of finish out the semester? Like, do you think it puts you in a better headspace when that happens?
I think so. It's always important to take a break, and I feel like that's something that a lot of students tend to forget. I feel like with the way that the curriculum is structured, it's always like go, go, go. You never get any breaks. So it's those type of events really let you just like de-stress and, you know, realize that school is important, but your mental health is even more important, and it's always good to prioritize that.
That's good to hear, because that's one of the things that I personally felt, and I was trying to see if other people kind of felt the same way. For example, when there were the open mics, there were so many open mics, your guys was the best. We had a much smaller one, but it was still really fun. But the point of kind of like, you know, why would an academic support center do an open mic? It was exactly for that reason, to kind of say, there's a lot more that goes into this than just what's on an exam or what grade you get. One thing I wanted to talk a little bit about more is kind of like grade-based anxiety, because I know that's something that I like really dealt with. It's tough, because it's like it could ruin your whole day, it could ruin your week, and then it just makes you just a lot more tense going into the next exam and things like that. And so I'm curious, what like methods or even just mindsets do you guys find helpful when it comes to dealing with grade-based anxiety?
For me, I find that it's always important to remind myself that, you know, you can't label yourself as a number, like, based off of your grades. Like, you're much more than that.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like, after you've taken the quiz or the exam, it's over. There's really nothing much you can do about it. So it's always good to keep a positive mindset and not label yourself based on just your grades.
One of the things that, you know, we want to focus on too is like also the emphasis on like the process. And it's like if you learned and you like genuinely enjoyed learning, even if, for example, you didn't do as well as you liked on the grade, but you still felt like you learned something in the process, that like is, I think that's equally as valid. And I'm curious, kind of maybe what ways do you think would be useful to students to kind of help them get from point A to point B in terms of like maybe workshops or initiatives that would maybe kind of support different ways of viewing yourself as a student other than like my grade is like my identity, you know what I mean?
Like Rutgers especially, I noticed, gives you a lot of opportunities to explore more about yourself outside of grades. So like say you're really bad at biology, but you love biology, like there's a biology club, and there's so many different like areas that you can just explore and look at yourself in a different way.
That's kind of why like with student orgs, I feel like they're so valuable, because it just, I think it brings like a different dimension to the student experience, that it still is academic in nature just because you guys are all in this like together. But it kind of just allows you to like express yourself in different ways. One of the things that I was kind of curious about, actually speaking of like, for example, biology majors, things like that, is for people with like particularly stressful majors, how would you recommend like kind of handling that and dealing with that? Because like we have a lot of people, especially biology majors and nursing majors, they come in and they schedule tutoring sessions, and sometimes they already walk in feeling like they're going to get an F. And that's a really hard place to be.
So it is really stressful, but you know, you're going to classes from Monday to Thursday normally, and maybe you're working on the weekends.
Yeah.
So for me, I find it's really helpful to just take like one day off just to kind of focus on myself. It could be like half of the day even that's helpful. Just to kind of like de-stress and I don't know, just like enjoy your time off a little bit. I feel like that's always good to like take a break.
I think one of the things that I found when I was a student too is like when it comes to taking a break, sometimes it's like you're so busy working that you don't even know how to take a break. So like when you do have free time, you kind of like don't use it very wisely because you don't even know what to do with it. And so for students that maybe kind of like can relate to that, what would you say are some, you know, and obviously it's subjective, but some like healthy ways to like handle your downtime?
For me, I like going to the gym during my free time.
Yeah?
Yeah, I find it's a good way to de-stress.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Any? Yeah.
I write down, like, when I'm really busy, I'm like, oh, I want to do something. I write it down in, like, a list, and then when I schedule time to relax, and I'm like, I don't know what to do, I just go back to my list.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
I surround myself with people, so I usually...
That's the one that I do.
Actually take my books, put them to the side, and just go out with friends. Spend some time, just be, like, physically away from, like, my books or anything that I'm studying, my laptop, and just, like, go out with friends, go for a walk to the waterfront, just, like, a little hard reset, and then come back to it later. That's
that I do that a lot too, because like I don't know, I'm an extrovert, so when I'm by myself, I'm like that's normally not the best version of myself. So I surround myself with people, that's kind of something that I also tried to do when I was a student, is try to figure out like when I'm like, for example, I have the downtime and you know that's great when I take it off, but most of the time I'm studying, most of the time I have exams and things like that, and so it's like how do I make that as fulfilling as possible? And so I was curious to hear from you guys if you have any kind of perspectives on how to make studying and like exam preparation, like how can you make that not a stressful nightmare? You know, it might be stressful, but are there any specific kind of things that you would say, like for example, maybe doing more study groups with other people, or like what kind of things kind of just help with the academic side of things, making that a little bit easier?
Yeah, so I would say one of the most important things is figure out how you study.
Yes, that's
so,
yeah.
Like, how do you learn best? Do you learn if someone's talking to you? Do you learn if you're teaching it to someone? Do you learn if you're alone or if you're with groups? I think that's one of the most important things. And then the second thing I would say is when you're studying, don't stress about whether you're retaining the information.
Yeah.
Because I do that all the time. I'm like halfway through reading through like a packet, I'm like, wait, did I just absorb that I just, like all the stuff that I just read?
Yeah.
But I think it's important, like when you're studying, to just read through the material, get through the material, whatever you didn't like fully absorb, come back to it. And I think that's like half the battle, just stressing about whether you absorb the information. But yeah, that's what I would say with studying. Just take it easy, get through the material, and then redo it and reinforce.
That's a really good one. I like that one a lot.
Thanks.
Yeah, like I wonder how much of like the stress of the semester comes from maybe students studying in one way that is actually not calibrated to what actually works for them. Like, have you guys ever like done anything in that area before, or have any perspectives on how to like kind of help students recognize things about themselves and how they process?
Yeah, so I do know in like one of my classes, like in high school, like I think it was like my English class, my teacher handed all of us a survey. And so it was like a survey where you like put numbers next to like a certain statement, and then you would add up the numbers, and then basically at the end the number would tell you like what kind of learning style you have. I think that was really interesting for me because it helped me understand, like kind of helped me like quantify basically how I personally learn best. But sometimes it's just through trial and error. So I feel like we've all like sat in a class, and some of us sat there and thought, well, that professor is talking on and on and on, and I'm not absorbing anything. I'm gonna have to review this after class. Some of us studied with a peer and said, well, you know what, maybe me teaching Ria a few things about this assignment actually helped me. And so that also helps a lot. So I think just like playing around with those different study methods, especially in like a tutoring center, would be really, really important. Just to see, just so it's not just like me teaching you something, but it's more like, well, how can we really engage with the material? How can we make sure that the end goal is that you absorb this information and be able to apply it in your future?
Yeah.
So that's definitely something that could be done.
And I feel like that ties into, like, back into kind of like grade-based anxiety, for example. Like, I think one of the things that a lot of our tutors try to do is they just focus specifically on, okay, what assignment do you have? Let's not think about the grade, let's just think about, like, how could you do this better? Or how could I, like, help you find your learning style better? So I think that could also fit with that too. But kind of like on the side of, again, like that trial and error thing, that obviously like involves like a lot of failure, right? And like a lot of struggling. And so one of the things that we've found is that, you know, when students don't get tutoring, or, you know, like their first time coming to tutoring, a lot of times they kind of struggle to really acknowledge that they need help or support in some kind of way. And I feel like that extends to a lot of different areas of people's life, knowing when to ask for help. And I'm sure you guys have a lot of experience in just kind of helping people get to that place and, you know, just talking about that kind of thing. And so I guess my question is, for someone who struggles kind of opening up and asking for help and being vulnerable, what suggestions would you give them to kind of just open that door a little bit towards the support that's available to them?
For me, it kind of feels like ripping off the Band-Aid.
Yeah?
It's like, just take that one moment, like send that email, like just talk to the professor after class. Like even if you're nervous, you have nothing to lose, and sometimes you have everything to gain.
Yeah. I like that one. That's good.
I think it's very important to acknowledge that many of the students here on campus didn't have resources such as like tutoring available.
Mm-hmm.
So just transitioning into that is pretty difficult.
Yeah.
Having so many resources available,
It can feel overwhelming
it
sometimes.
can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
So personally for me, this semester or the past semester, I've actually gone into tutoring and like been accepting tutoring from other students just to see how they really like, you know, use the information they learn in class and how they absorbed it best. So I think it's very important to just, you know, jump right in and see if it works for you. I mean, it's not a commitment.
Yeah.
And so like if you try it once and you say maybe this is not for me, then you might find another way to learn like material better.
One thing that I found too is that the more that I asked for help, the more that I realized that everyone else also needs help too. And that made me feel a lot better. Like everyone is stressed about this, you know what I mean? And so it helped me kind of just realize, okay, we're in this together. But I didn't know that you started tutoring. That's like, what's your experience been with it so far? Like, how are you enjoying it?
So I do have a tutor. She helps me with my STEM classes.
Nice.
But it's really nice just having that one-on-one interaction and being able to learn the material from a different perspective.
Yeah.
Because she is a student, so it's not like a professor lecturing, but it's more like a one-on-one type of thing. If I have any questions about the material, if I want to learn more about the material, see really how it applies to like life and like, you know, in general, just not like take the material for what it is, but like be able to work around it and fully grasp it. Yeah, it's really nice. It's good to get that from a student perspective.
Yeah, and so kind of like wrapping up everything that we talked about kind of like grade-based anxiety and like learning styles, and then like kind of like campus involvement and how that helps with you know, like mental health, and also, you know, like downtime and like what healthy downtime looks like. So out of like all the kind of topics we kind of like hopped around on, in your opinion, and you can take a second to think about this if you need to, what do you think would be like, in your opinion, is like the most pressing thing, like immediate thing that an academic support office like class or other ones on campus could work towards addressing, like in this semester and the next semester, whether it's collaborating with more groups like you guys, just like what's one thing that you're like, if you guys started doing this, we would see change?
Something that just comes to mind right now is like that anxiety when it comes to studying, and like not just studying, but like if there's a topic that you're struggling with.
Yeah.
And like sometimes the main roadblock is not like the material, it's the mindset and the anxiety that just prevents you from seeing, like just from getting to like start looking at the material.
Yeah, that's a good one. Closing out, so now's the time. If there's anything else you want to kind of like plug, socials, whatever works for you.
If you want to get involved and you want to hear more about the work we're doing, I'd say just follow us on RUC Active _Minds.
Awesome.
And yeah, join us on Engage too.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Thank you guys so much for joining. I really appreciate it. I think that this is like going to be a great first interview for the semester. I think especially just because talking about these kinds of things early and giving people the chance to see them early will just kind of set them up for the rest of the semester. So thank you guys so much for coming on. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next episode of Mondays, 11:20. This time live on the WCCR radio station. That'll be episode 2 of The Classroom. Thank you guys so much for joining, and I will see you next time. Bye.